Welcome, people. Gilbert Burns versus Mike Malott this weekend. Does anybody care? Because I don't. I give absolutely no shits about this fight. And it brings me to this video because I'm pretty sure a lot of you would agree with me that Canada is a pretty big country in terms of, world renownedness, land mass, being above the USA. And the slop that the Canadian UFC fans are being treated to every single time we go there is unacceptable. Gilbert Burns versus Mike Malott is a crowded Apex card at best. What crowded fight night would have an old washed Gilbert Burns as a main event against a prospect who's not even a prospect? Mike Mallott's not even that good. Can we stop pretending he's good? The only reason he's being pushed right now is because he's Canadian. If he wasn't Canadian, no one would give a damn about him. Now, I'm going to give my picks for obviously the main event and some of the fights down this card that I care about, but I just want to take you on a trip down memory lane, a look into some other Canadian cards in recent years. And we're going to look at the last pay-per-view that was in Canada. Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. Now, in terms of reception for this card, you'd say it's a pretty good card. I actually enjoyed this card. It was a good card. But on paper, are we really supposed to be... the main card is pretty good because it's a pay-per-view, but... the prelims... Mike Malott a year ago was on the prelims of a Canada card, and now he's main eventing one. It just makes no sense. It's just... I feel like UFC 15 is actually not a very good example of showing this. UFC 297, on the other hand, is a crap card, full stop. It got saved by the main event. Strickland vs. Dricus was a really, really good main event. I'll give them that. But Raquel Pennington versus Mayra Bueno Silva as a co-main event title fight for them poor Canadian fans. We got the female Manuel Ugarte versus a fucking man in Mayra Bueno Silva. Might as well call you Myron Bueno Silva, bro. This fight was trash. Neil Magny versus Mike Malott was the featured fight. Are we for real? Chris Curtis versus Marc-Andre Barriault. Arnold Allen versus Movsar, pretty good fight. And it was quite interesting. Prelims, absolute trash. They were trash. Jillian Robertson versus Polyana Viana. No one cares. Charles Jourdain versus Sean Woodson. Charles Jourdain is the co-main event for this weekend's card. He's fighting on the prelims of this one. UFC Fight Night Moreno vs Albazi is another one that I wanted to look at because that's a fight night and that's easier to compare. This card was also trash. It was really bad. Blanchfield vs Nama Yunus co-main event. No Canadians in the main or co-main. And considering how much they want to push the Canadian talent on these Canadian cards, not having a single one, not even on the featured fight, until the second fight of the main card. Jasmine, who's a pretty decent prospect in fairness to her. Marc-Andre Barriault, I think it goes down, in my opinion, to the lack of actual good prospects coming out of Canada. Like, you've got Mike Malott, he sucks. Marc-Andre Barriault, he's just a free shitter win for, Sharable. Jasmine Dejukavicius, I probably butchered that. She's okay, for the female scene. She's not that bad, but it's still not great. I feel like the best one we've got is the guy that's headlining the prelims here, Ayman Zahabi. Ayman Zahabi is probably the best Canadian prospect we have in the UFC. I wouldn't really call him a prospect now because obviously he's going to fight Sean O'Malley at the bloody White House, but even Ayman Zahabi's not all that. He's not all that. He had a really odd fight with Aldo that I feel like Aldo won. He had a really odd fight with Cheeto, and what I will give Zahabi is that these fights are entertaining. He does put on entertaining fights, right? But I just don't think he's that good. I don't think he's that good. He's a decent striker, he's alright, but he's not that good. I don't think he'll ever win a belt. We're never going to get a prospect as good as GSP in terms of Canadian talent. Anyway, enough with the ranting. Let's actually get into the card this weekend. Looking at it, it's not a good card. It really isn't. The level, the fight nights in terms of stat cards, it's really fell in terms of standards, in my opinion. We used to get really, really good fight nights, and that is mostly because Apex cards didn't exist. You know, this is such a simple thing that UFC can fix. Remove Apex cards, stack fight nights better, so that every card can have a crowd. There's no need for the Apex anymore. It's not COVID. We don't need it anymore. Anyway, let's actually get into this. Right. In terms of this fight, this is such an obvious way to try and push Mike Malott into the rankings. Gilbert Burns, he's lost a few fights. I'm pretty sure his last fight was the Morales fight, if I'm not mistaken. And before that was Sean Brady, I'm pretty sure. He's on a pretty bad skid. And if he loses this, I can see him retiring. But I do have a slight feeling he can get it done here. You know, crafty vet against, you know, someone who's already been fraud checked. People really forget. People forget, man. Mike Malott lost to Neil Magny. He got finished by Neil Magny. And I can see that. I feel like I can see the same happening in this fight. I feel like Gilbert Burns will be able to control him on the ground. Maybe not find a submission, but I feel like over 5 rounds, I think Gilbert Burns is just more equipped for that. I don't feel like Mike Malott is really ready for a 5-round fight. The Kevin Holland fight was really weird. You know, if they do end up rematching, which is what Kevin Holland is hoping for, Kevin Holland wins that 10 times out of 10. So, surprise, surprise, I am going to pick Gilbert Burns by unanimous decision in this fight. I genuinely believe that Gilbert Burns is going to win this fight. I think he will. Mike Malott's not that good, guys. Let's not go on this fake hype train of his. Right, next up, co-main event. Kyler Phillips versus Charles Jourdain. This is a really interesting fight. Charles Jourdain is one of my favorite fighters. I really like him a lot because of his personality on Instagram. Kyler Phillips, on the other hand, you know, started off as a pretty interesting prospect in the bantamweight division, and then obviously he lost to Rob Font, I think it was. I think I'm going to take Kyler Phillips by decision here. It's not really something I'm interested in. This card is fucking trash. And the rest of the main cards, honestly, I genuinely couldn't give a fuck about, to be honest. So I'll put it on screen, my picks for this. If you're listening to this video, then I'm picking Jai Herbert, Jasmine Jasudavicius, and Goj Young. But that pretty much wraps it up. I don't really feel like I have anything else to say. The prelims don't really have anything that I really care about. So I hope you enjoyed my little rant, and I hope you agree with me because I feel like I'm talking facts. Burns vs Malott this Saturday. Gilbert Burns by unanimous decision is my final pick. Thank you for watching. See you later.